So for the most part, like based off what they're saying, through the VS Black compared to the Tour BX, strokes gained tee to green for the year before the playoffs, I was 71st at 0.224. Driving distance, I was 299.5, 117th. That's awful. Accuracy, 59.6%, 82nd. Awful. Terrible. I changed to the golf ball. Strokes gained tee to green 2.563, which was 10th in the playoffs. Now, granted, it is a small testing pool because I only played 2 tournaments. But during those 2 tournaments, I was 10th in strokes gained tee to green. And then driving distance, I was at 308.7. So I went to 30th instead of 117th. So I gained 9.2 yards. You can say 10 yards. And then accuracy, I was at 68.16. So I was 11th in accuracy as well.
What is up, everybody? How you living? No putts given. Tony and Chris, we're back, but much to our happiness and exuberance, we have Jason Day with us. Jason, what's going on?
Hey guys, how are you? Is everything good?
I think we're good. How's is this the off season for you?
No, it is the off season. I've just been kind of relaxing a little bit. Watched the Ryder Cup last week. That was outstanding.
Was it?
I love the Ryder Cup. It was outstanding.
What's your favorite part? Like when you watch, I mean, frankly, the U.S. team could have used you. I think in a couple matches, we could have benefited from some experience there. But yeah, as a world class, like when you're watching that, because you've played in these events, obviously on President's Cup side, but what do you?
It's
like
different. The President's Cup to the Ryder Cup, the whole feel is different. I think I love that the European side play for no money. It just adds more to the team. They just look. And I'm not saying that the Americans don't look like a close knit group. The Europeans look like they're inseparable. They look like a family. Like I best relate it to, New Zealand rugby. You know what I mean? Like when you look at New Zealand rugby and what it means to, an individual to be on that team, it just means so much more. It's big, it's huge for them. And you can tell that they actually care. And that's what I see in the European side is that they honestly care individually for each and every person that's on that team. And that's not only just for the players, it's also for the caddies, the wives, everything. You can tell that they're very, very close. And it just shows on TV how much they actually care. With that being said, it just seemed like the Americans, any time, like granted, I played in plenty of President's Cups. So what the Americans were doing, where they were hitting a lot of good quality golf shots, they weren't quite putting as well as the Europeans. But when they had an opportunity to birdie and they took it and made birdie, the Europeans would just dunk it straight back on them. They gave them nothing. Absolutely nothing. Any sort of momentum that they potentially could have had from holding a long bomb or a birdie putt, like the Europeans answered it. And not only did they shut the momentum down pretty quick, that it kind of tamed the crowds down to a certain point. Now, granted, I understand the Ryder Cup is big, and there's going to be some tempers flared out there on the golf course between fans and players, depending on where you're at, whether you're playing home or away. And I like it, man. Golf is such a professional sport that to the point where we don't want to cross the line, and some of the heckling can be a little bit much. And that being said, both from the fans and from players, like there shouldn't be like kind of the cussing at each other. And I understand that like it's different, and people that go there, especially that New York crowd, can be tough at times. But that's just kind of the whole thing. You're playing away. It's a Ryder Cup's a huge thing, and Europe's playing in New York. I mean, that's massive. So, I mean, it was exciting to see how it all kind of happened yesterday, because there was, I mean, it could have been it was close, but it wasn't. If they would have played a little bit better on the teams, the US might have, obviously probably should have won it because of how well they played yesterday.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the money part. It's I think like you can't necessarily, in my opinion, point to like one specific reason that the European team has that kind of aura and kind of vibe about them,
Right.
where it matters. Because I wouldn't say it doesn't matter to the Americans. I think they all want to win. I think it
Yeah.
matters a
Yeah. Yeah.
lot, but there's
Well,
enough little
yeah.
things that go in there where it's like I don't know that on the American side you can ever replicate
Mm,
or put together a committee or a task force to
yeah.
address and come up with, hey, how do we just culturally ingrain this more in our players that this is a
Yes.
really important thing and you should want to do it for your country, which they say
Mhm.
they do. And I believe that they do. I believe they
Yeah.
want to represent the states, et cetera, and all those things. But no European player in my mind would ever ask to be paid.
No.
And
Well, I
it seems
mean,
like some American, it's just an interesting dividing point. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if anyone's ever asked to be paid more or less or whatever on the European side. I'm sure at some point they say, "Hey, we should be paid for our time." But I've heard multiple players on the US side talk about how they should get paid more or it's okay to be paid. Now, when you start talking about that, it just sends the wrong message to the rest of the guys. You know what I mean? And like when you're playing for something that's bigger than money, and granted, the majority, pretty much everyone on both teams, they don't have to worry about money. So when you're
They're
when you're
doing
playing
okay.
for something bigger than actually going there and playing for the person standing next to you, and there's that kind of mentality, of course you want to run through a brick wall for that guy. You know what I mean? Whereas when there's people talking about like, oh, we should get paid more, or blah blah blah. Like, and I look, I haven't read too much into it, but I've heard comments here and there about some certain players talking about how much they should make. And look, you are putting in a lot of time, you are putting a lot of effort, and it is, you know, the PGA, the Ryder Cup itself makes a lot of money, but what makes the Euros so good, I think, is that because they don't play for money, that they're there and they truly believe in their heart that they like want it, more because of that. Not That's just one part of it, the money side of things, but not only all the other things, like the people that were, there before. And I'm not saying that the US don't feel that. I definitely am not saying that at all because I honestly feel like that the US is a great team, and I think they're going to have a great team going forward. But yeah, I mean, it was exciting to watch, regardless.
Yeah.
Jason, would you be in favor of opening up the Ryder Cup and making it even more of an international event? Obviously, golf has become much more of a global game. As an
Yeah,
Australian, you're not eligible. Asians not
yeah.
eligible. So would you like to see it expanded?
I think I'll probably get a little bit of slack for this, but I'd rather see the PGA Tour versus Live,
Oh,
because I think
wouldn't
that
we
would be.
all?
I
Yeah.
think that would be great. Honestly think PGA Tour versus Live, so the best PGA Tour players versus Live. And if you ever had the opportunity to get onto that team, that'd be outstanding, because then now you're really playing into that. So
Yeah. And we're going to get to golf balls here in a minute and things because there's equipment that people want, but there's just so many, so many interesting topics. And before we get to the golf ball, I have to ask you this, like 2015, you're number one player in the world. We look at kind of your early history, etc.
yeah,
You never struck me necessarily as a wild dresser or willing to push the envelopes of fashion, maybe like an Ian Poulter or
right.
somebody. So what the hell happened at Augusta? What did they actually say to you? How did that all go down? And I want to know about this Malbon thing. Like, is that part of your personality that's just always been there, but people didn't really know because that wasn't
Yeah.
worth kind of taking a risk maybe at that point in your career? Whereas now you're obviously well established and can
Yeah.
kind of take more risks that way.
So there's a couple of things at play here. So in regards to the fashion and all that stuff, I've always been into fashion. there's some really bad photos of me back in the day with what I was wearing. So like, I mean, I've always been into fashion a lot. I just, because you're an Adidas athlete when I first came out, a Nike athlete, then you don't really get to show it too much. Obviously, you just like, and granted, it's that way for a reason, because the way they dress their players looks phenomenal. I think it's just like, it's very like the way that Nike does their stuff. Like, it's just a swoosh. It looks very, very professional. It looks very strong. Um, and then when it came to Melbourne, um, I was, like you said, I was established on the tour. I've been out there for a long time and heading into my 19th season on the PGA Tour. And I was actually going to do my own thing. And I was just going to wear like kind of whatever I wanted. And I was just going to sell the space, you know what I mean? That you can potentially sell. Like, obviously left chest is huge, the back over here. And you can start to sell other stuff. But like, if you have space, you can sell that and kind of recoup some of the money. But, with that being said, I was just going to go very classic, style of golf, like very tailored custom clothes. And then how it happened was my agent came to me and said, "Hey, there's a young company called Melbourne that would like to make some stuff for you." And then, it kind of blossomed from there. And then all of a sudden I'm like, "Hey, do you think we can do this type of fabric? Do you think we can do this?" And then Steve in Melbourne himself is like a genius marketer. He just kind of is. Obviously started out, kind of, I shouldn't say he started out, but he was a caddy at a golf course in Atlanta, and then started up a magazine in New York, and then all of a sudden found his way into LA and started a whole clothing line. And then from there, for me to be able to kind of help in a way that, like, what I want to see, on the golf course, way I want to feel. And I also wanted to not look like everyone else, because if you're an Adidas athlete or a Nike athlete, typically there's at some point you're going to wear the same thing as someone else. It's inevitable. So I kind of want to have my own thumbprint, my own identity out there. And then when you also have, equity in the partnership as well, it also motivates you to kind of want to get it out there even more, where you're wearing some kind of stuff that goes to the edge or to the line. And some people hate it and some people love it. And then you bring it back and then you wear golfy stuff again. And then you keep going back and forth and you're just testing that line. So you're going there, you're testing the line, then you come back and they're like, so people are trying to guess, like, what in the world is this guy doing? Like, there's no consistency in what he's doing. And that's kind of where we're at. And in regards to the Augusta vest, I wore it and I was like, because we had a delay, I came back the next day because I wore these big baggy pants. And then the next day I came back and Tiger and Max are like looking at me like that's boring. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, just wait till I pull this jacket off because it was cold. And then as soon as when you're on a talk show or something like that, when the lights come on, they're like 3, 2, 1, bang. It was like, we're about to tee off. We're on 14, 3, 2, 1, vest off. And then it's just like cameras right there because it's like worked out perfect because Tiger's right there. Max is there. He's playing great golf. Like, so it's just like a whole thing. And then all of a sudden it blew into that. And then I get off the golf course. My agent goes, "Hey, like, Augusta has asked you to take that vest off." So I said, "No problem. Like, this is not my tournament. I like, just like, I'm not trying to like get on anyone's nerves or make anyone angry or annoyed. But I just kind of took it off, and that was the end of it. And it's just kind of blossomed into what it was. So
Well, I mean, if someone pitched that idea as a marketing concept and say, "Hey, here's how we want this to go,"
yeah,
it couldn't have gone really any better,
yeah,
because it pushed the line to a degree.
yeah,
Obviously, stepped over some line that somebody didn't appreciate. Fine, whatever. Like you said, perfect response. Hey, not my tournament. I'm here on their behalf. It's their tournament, their rules. Happy to abide by those. But that arguably got it even more press than because now there was some controversy around it,
sure.
which, like you said, when you push boundaries, part of you wants that sort of
Yeah.
response where some are going to like it and some are going to ask you to not wear it at their tournament.
The
You know?
that got I think it got 4.7 billion impressions on like social media, and then
Wow.
like the the American shorts that I wore at the U.S. Open this year.
Yeah.
I think that got 4.3 billion impressions. So it was just like a lot of people saw it, which was fantastic. And then also made it to the point where the Ryder Cup, US Ryder Cup team was sent a bunch of the American shorts because as a gift. Ultimately in the end, because Keegan saw him, he's like, we got to get those for the guys. So that was fantastic, which is nice.
Well, that's awesome. Well, let's talk some golf ball stuff since,
Yeah.
we're done with the serious stuff. Now we can get into some fun things,
Yeah.
Tony. What do you think, Tony? You asked this one.
Yeah, I think starting point, right? You are a Bridgestone staffer now in the golf ball category. How did that happen? How did you find your way to Bridgestone?
So there are a number of like little stories, that I was, as I was playing the tour. I remember Tiger playing the Bridgestone ball for a little bit. I'm like, and we were playing Bay Hill, and there'd be at the time I was playing a different of my old contract ball, and we were in the same position on some holes, and he'd be hitting these shots, and I'm like, it was just so simple for him. He didn't have to overplay a shot. There's nothing worse when you have a shot that you're next to another player and you're having to manufacture something that is very uncomfortable in regards to your technique to be able to create a shot to make it work out. And Ty was sitting there with a Bridgestone ball and he's chipping, and I'm like, man, that just looked like a normal chipping technique where I'm just hitting this like kind of open face, wide open like flop shot, and he's just like hitting this like nice little chip shot that is just so simple, easy technique. When you start to add like bigger, wider longer swings with an open face, then that gets tougher. And then I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, he plays a Bridgestone ball. It's like kind of cheating around the golf, around the golf greens or the greens when you're short side at least. And then Bryson at the time was a staffer, and you know how he likes to tinker. Like he's like sitting there spritzing the golf ball at tour champs. But you got to understand that, like, even though some of that potentially could be for show, he's not silly. He actually does a lot of the testing to be able to understand why it is happening, and then can they develop a golf ball that is actually helpful. So you have the arguably the best player in the world playing it, and the guy that like is going to do the most testing out of everyone on tour playing that was like the two like positives that I saw. When I started like hitting the ball, I'm like, wow, this is pretty impressive. I had a lot more spin around the green, so anytime I'm short side, it was a lot easier to get up and down. You could be a little bit more aggressive at your targets, and also like side breezes, the stability in the side breezes. Like I was just so used to hitting a shot, going up, starting to lose a little bit of air underneath it, and it would just kind of drift, you know what I mean, on the wind. And it'd drift a lot in my old golf ball. And then this one, I'd hit it and I'd be waiting for it to drift, and it just would not drift. It'd just stay so straight. And then, yeah, that's kind of like how and also I played it for a year. I played it for a year without even being a staffer, because I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna give this thing a real good go, because it's so easy to, like, as a professional golfer, it's so easy to go out and find deals, no problem. Like golf ball deals, shoe deals, glove deals, whatever you want. There's deals out there that you can get. But there's very rarely, like at the time, did you ever find guys that were just trying something for free and just using it and then really just giving it a go? And that's kind of what I did. I'm like, I need to really try and give this a go, because if you get paid, it's just easy. You're just going to go on and get paid and just say, hey, this is a ball that I use. I love it. You know what I mean? Is there a lot of truth to it? Maybe, maybe not. But you just kind of get used to it and you work your golf game around that golf ball. Whereas I really wanted to build my game around this golf ball, because I just knew that it was going to help me in the long run.
Yeah, the money grab part. I mean, obviously that didn't work out super well for Bubba at one point in time. You can argue whether or
Yeah.
not that was part of Ricky's struggles initially going over to TaylorMade, was
Mhm.
going from one ball to a very, very different ball and having to
Yeah.
adjust that. So, when you do that, what does your ball fitting process look like? Again, this is
Right.
expansive. It's extensive. You're a professional. This is,
Mhm.
your hammer and nails. It's different
Yeah.
than us weekend warriors. But give us a peek inside. What does that look like? What are you really looking for? Like, what are your key decision points on
Right.
yes or no, or deal breakers? Hey, if this ball doesn't do A, B, or C,
Yeah.
then it's not even a consideration.
So is the golf ball going far enough is obviously one of those crucial things because you don't want to start losing distance. How is it performing in breeze, like into the wind, downwind, side breezes? How's it performing landing on the greens? How's it performing flighting shots? So your wedges, your short irons, your mid irons, like how do they work out? Um, Short game stuff around the greens. What does it sound like? The feel, and really just going back and forth between the balls. So like you'll be hitting Bridgestone, and then you go and hit your old ball, and then you just try and go back and forth, and then you're like, just okay, what is it? What do I really want? Because there's pros and cons to all of it. Like my old ball that I had was a very, very firm golf ball. I never had to worry about spin because I'm a high spinning guy. But because it was such a rock hard golf ball, I never had to worry about it spinning like with a wedge because it would just come down and it felt like it was like a real heavy ball and bounce and stop. Whereas in sometimes the Bridgestone ball, if I don't quite get the technique right, sometimes it wants to spin. But now obviously I've changed into this new VS black, and that's like mitigated like all that stuff. So which is fantastic. So there is a process, and going through all of what I said is important. Obviously, like I said, the sound is very, very important too, because you can get things that are a little bit too clicky, and that throws guys. It doesn't matter what it is. If you like it clicky, then it can make a golf ball that is not as good seem like it's better than your old golf ball, or vice versa the other way too.
How much of this are you doing on course? Just going out there playing with a golf ball versus
Right.
being on the range with a TrackMan.
So TrackMan, you can start to lose sight of you. It's good to get the numbers, like a baseline of, like, let's just say for instance, like a 7 iron spins at 7,000, and I'm just saying just baseline. It doesn't. That's not me, but it's good to get those numbers. How high it's going, what's the apex, what's the land angle, what's the spin, how much curvature is there on the, and obviously some of that stuff is related to like what you do delivering into the golf ball. But the big thing is you got to just take it out and play with it and get it out on the golf course. And you got to go, okay, well, what is it like from the fairway at 150 yards? And what is it like from the first cut at 150 yards? What is it like from the first cut with wind into me from 150 yards or downwind? Do I like that trajectory going into it? Do I not like the trajectory? Do I find that it's coming in too hot? Do I find that it's coming in too soft and spinning? Like, does it come off the driver feeling like it's going to come off really fast, or does it come off a little bit slow and feel like it's just not really getting a lot of pop onto it? So there's just a number of things that you have to get at. If you don't like what you're seeing trajectory wise, you'll never really fully believe in it. You know what I mean? So you've got to go out there and go, okay, that's my windows. I like what it's doing. And then just really kind of believe in that process. But if you don't trust what it's doing flight wise, trajectory wise, spin wise, it'll be very difficult to change over to any golf ball, let alone like something, that you've fully trust.
I thought it was interesting, like you mentioned the rough. I don't think, when, like Chris said, the weekend warriors, right? We don't necessarily, when we're trying out new balls, trying to find something that works for us.
Yeah.
Probably very few of us actually think like, all right, let's drop a few in the rough and really see what we notice.
Right.
What do you see? Do you see pretty significant differences between golf balls hitting out of the rough? Like, okay,
Yeah.
Chris mentioned, like, are there deal breakers, right?
Yeah. Now, some of it, like if you're in the long rough, some of it like potentially is club related, because depending on like the groove depth and the way that they cut the grooves, that can potentially cause flies or no flies. So that's obviously, if that is the case, then how does that ball perform? Let's just say, for instance, you've got more of a V groove, and the depth of your groove is really small because you're trying to take spin off from the fairway. But if you go on the rough, you'll get a flyer. Are you okay with seeing a flyer out of the rough with the ball that you have currently? You know what I mean? If you are, then great, that's no problem. If you have like more of a kind of a U or square groove, because the groove rule is kind of like gray. You know what I mean? It's not like they said they got rid of square grooves, but like you can kind of get around it. But long story short is like when you have more square grooves, like, and you're in the rough, like the thick rough, and you see it come out. Like, let's say, for instance, I hit a 9 on 155 yards, and in thick rough, there's like a little bit of grass that you have to go through, and it only go about 150 yards. But then if I have the same lie and I have like the V grooves and it's popping, that potentially could make the ball fly another, 10 yards. Do I like that? So that's the reason what I'm saying is like when you're testing a ball, test it, go to the rough, go to the first cut, go to the sand, spray water on your ball if you can, because you could have a 7-iron spinning at 7,000 on a nice dry day, 77 degrees, 0 altitude, and then you put some water on it and it's going to spin at 8,000 and it's going to pull up, 5 to 7 yards shorter than your actual normal dry 7-iron. So like those are the things that you kind of have to test and really understand. Well, some balls don't do that. Some balls kind of are better with wet, with a wet ball, or some balls are better with, out of the first cut. So they're the kind of things that you have to go through. There we
We
froze.
lost you for a
Sorry,
second
boys.
there, Jace.
Yeah, my bad.
No, you're good.
Where was I at?
We just finished up like V groove, square groove, just saying, hey, can you live with knowing that you may get that flyer, and that's gonna that may dump some of the spin and I think, and you definitely get people that are way more into it, right? And they can take the time and do all that.
Yeah.
Most golfers probably won't do that. So if you were, let's say, somebody that's interested, saying, hey, God, I've never really thought about testing a ball versus my new ball. I'm interested. I'll do that. What do you think would be kind of like a Reader's Digest version or like a diet ball fitting? If you're like, hey, I'm going to get this done, and here are 3 to 5 things that your 12 handicap can do that would help put them in a better ball. Like if you had to simplify that, what do you think would be kind of those maybe 3 to 5 things that would be like the non-negotiables again?
Well, I think you have to look at your club speed, because if you're let's just say, for instance, you could potentially use a Titleist Pro V1, or a left dash or left dot, and you're swinging the club at 95 miles an hour with a driver. That ball is not going to be good for you. You know what I mean? You need something that is probably a little bit softer, maybe spins a little bit more. You'll be able to get it in the air a little bit more, and you might optimize it better that way. So, I mean, Bridgestone has a great ball fitting process where you can actually go through and see what type of golf ball actually you need for your club speed, and then obviously that they kind of take you through the whole fitting process in that sense. But I mean that, and then obviously what's it doing around the greens, how's it spinning? They're really the only two things, like, because most amateurs aren't able to really control. Let's just say you hit your 56 degree 100 yards, and I say, hey, I want you to hit your 56 85 yards. They're not going to be able to control that. They don't have enough. And I'm just talking about like a normal 12 handicapper. They won't have the ability to go, hey, I'm going to grip down and I'm going to hit it like a 3/4 shot, and that should be about 85 yards, and hit it at, 70 feet in the air with a certain X amount of spin. They don't have that. So just my thing is just like, does the ball fit your driver? Do you like the ball when it comes off iron wise? Does it go through the windows that you like? And does it give you enough playability around the greens to be able to fit into a golf ball that you like? But the not everyone should be playing a Titleist golf ball Pro V1 X, like, or left dash, left dot, whatever it is, or even like a VS Black or a Tour BX back in the last year. Not everyone should be playing these balls if you're not quite fit for them. So that's why I'm saying, like, Bridgestone has a great ball fitting process, so you should be able to go get fit for that.
Yeah, most amateurs I know that if you say, hey, take this 100-yard 56, and hit it 85, they just chunk it and it goes, that was 85. Like, that's an easy way to take 15 yards off. Just chunk it, right? Like, that's not
hit a little bit higher on the face, and it kind of loops there, and it's fine. Yeah.
Then you're good. you're good to go. I know this is going back a little bit prior to some of this ball testing stuff, but talk a little bit about your work with Jason Goldsmith and the mindset part, and just what that was, and maybe the key benefits of it for you, like during a tournament week.
Yeah. So I started working with Jason Goldsmith in 2012, and we worked on like kind of this blueprint of like how to go through a loop or throw your awareness around. Um, and essentially, what you're trying to do is you're trying to put your eyes and your awareness in two different spots. So I'm looking at you guys right now, but I know my buddies are out in the green. I can throw my awareness on my buddies out in the green that are putting on the green out there right now, and they're just walking around and stuff. So essentially, that way, if your mind and your awareness focus on one thing, it gives you enough time and space to be able to start to your mind to wander, you know? So essentially, that's where I'd get over a shot. I'd go into a shot. I'd ask myself a question. So, what is a good draw? What does a draw 7-iron look like? Once you ask a question, the brain will answer, and then from there, I would visualize. Then I'd start to walk in. I'd be looking at my target, but my awareness would be on the golf ball, right? So as I would get close to the golf ball, I know that I'd go, okay, I'm ready to switch. So as soon as my eyes and my awareness at the golf ball, my eyes were at the target. As soon as I got close to the golf ball, my head would start to go to the golf ball, and then my awareness from the golf ball would switch out to the target. And then I'd get over it, I'd set up, and then I'd be looking at the golf ball, my awareness at the target. And as soon as I looked up at the target, my awareness would go back to the golf ball. So essentially, what you're trying to do is you're trying to not let any sort of negative chatter or even just chatter in general, because once you're thinking, it takes you out of focus. And that way, like we're trying to take that chatter out, and then you're just going back and forth until you're ready to pull the trigger and hit the shot. Now, when we started talking about mindset on the golf ball, that's kind of what the process was. We were like, okay, what's the rings? We got to start with the gathering of the information, and once we gather the information, then we got to visualize a shot, and then obviously the last step was to go ahead and pull the trigger and execute. And that's kind of like something where we have tested with Bridgestone, and yeah, it's been amazing, kind of process to test through those guys, and but also hear the good stories about how guys are lowering their handicaps and lowering their scores because of it.
How did the mindset, kind of the actual graphic on the ball progress? I think we was a PGA show last year, right? Bridgestone showed us some of the early ideas. Can you kind of step us through your involvement in getting to what I guess constitutes the final design?
Yeah, so essentially it came out as a ring design because it was just step one, step two, step three. And obviously step one was the gathering information stage where you have the red circle, and obviously you got the yellow circle where you're like it's kind of like a stop light, green light kind of or you're at a light, a red light, and it's like, okay, I'm stopped, I'm thinking. Then you like obviously you go into the yellow. Some places have yellow and then green. So we just wanted to make sure that there was a process in steps to go from red, yellow, green. Green was like pull the trigger, let's go kind of thing. Because you wanted to go out there, gather all the information. How far is it? What's the lie doing? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it wet? Is it dry? What other things that could potentially cause my ball to go further or shorter? Then you visualize. You ask yourself the question: what is it? What does a good 7-iron or draw 7-iron look like? And then you go in and just execute and trust that process that you got it. Because most of the time, and I'm sure you guys have done it because you guys are golfers, where you go, okay, I got 165, 8-iron, or I got 85, 6-iron, yeah, no problem. And you don't think, you just like pull the trigger and just hit it, and you're like, I hope that goes somewhere close to it, because you just think, I hit my 6-iron 185 yards, and it should just go about that distance. But there's a lot more to the process, because you're sitting there going, how hard are the greens today? Where's the wind? Is it like dry conditions? Am I playing at altitude, or am I playing at sea level? How do I feel in general? Am I tired? Is my speed down, or am I jacked up? I'm playing a tournament. Am I hitting it further? All those things are the gathering information stage. And that's the integral part of like getting into the correct mindset.
So it sounds like a very simple way of processing and managing a whole lot of information, right? Like it's not just, all right, look at the target, look at the ball, hit it.
Right.
It's really kind of being aware of everything that goes into that golf shot.
Yeah, it's just getting the amateur to be more prepared to be able to hit the golf shot. So if they're more prepared to be able to hit the golf shot, they're most likely going to hit a better golf shot in the long run. They're going to play better. They're going to feel better about their game, and they're going to just overall enjoy the game a lot more because they're actually doing a routine every single time that they go through those process or those steps. And granted, you can't see the mindset logo every single time, but if you do it enough over time, it'll just become part of your routine. And that's what our whole goal was, to be able to help the amateur get into a better routine from start to finish so that they can actually start to play a lot better.
Yeah, let's. I want to talk about the new ball a little bit. You've alluded to it, mentioned to it. We don't want to spill beans, talk tech details, things that aren't are still under embargo and that stuff. But how involved have you been in this process now? Because, like you said, it was 22, I think, maybe is when you signed officially.
Yeah.
You were playing it the year before. We're talking 5-6 years of experience with with the product. So getting into that a little bit, what's your role been like, and what have you noticed in this new book? Because I believe you're already playing it.
Yeah, I am playing it. Actually, I've got some stats here because, like, do you want me to say stats or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so when I was number one in the world, I remember at Oakmont 2016, I was on the range next to Dustin Johnson, and me and him were beating driver, and I was 187 ball speed at that time. I'm nowhere near that now because I'm just older. And
me neither, so it's okay. You're amongst friends.
Yeah. So with that being said, I think a good driver of the golf ball, if you can average 65% of fairways and you're over 180 ball speed, or like at 180 or above, which meaning you're going to hit over 300 plus yards, that is a good formula for success, right? So for the most part, like based off what they're saying, through the VS Black compared to the Tour BX, strokes gained tee to green for the year before the playoffs, I was 71st at 0.224. Driving distance, I was 299.5, 117th. That's awful. Accuracy, 59.6%, 82nd. Awful, terrible. I changed to the golf ball, stroke gain tee to green 2.563, which was 10th in the playoffs. Now granted, it is a small testing pool because I only played 2 tournaments, but during those 2 tournaments, I was 10th in strokes gain tee to green. And then driving distance, I was at 308.7. So I went to 30th instead of 117th. So I gained 9.2 yards. You can say 10 yards. And then accuracy, I was at 68.16. So I was 11th in accuracy as well. So with that being said, I've seen a significant gain in ball speed up to 2 to 2.5 miles an hour in ball speed alone, which equates to that, pretty much 10 yards of extra distance. So that being, like, if I could keep myself at 68 or like I said, 65% and 300 plus, you are going to be a really, really, really outstanding driver of the golf ball and known as an outstanding driver of the golf ball because you hit it long and straight. So that's just going to give you more opportunities to be able to get at certain pin locations because you're actually playing a lot shorter shots coming into the greens, and should lower your scores potentially if you're a half decent iron player, and then get yourself on the greens more. So yeah, that's kind of where the VS Black is sitting right now. It's tested wonderfully. They actually came to me last fall and said, "Hey, we got this new ball coming out," and I tested it. I'm like, when is this ball coming out? Oh, it's not going to come out for another year. I'm like, why are you friggin' telling me about this right now? Because I want to play it. You know what I mean? So it took them a while, and then all of a sudden, they said, "Oh, we're going to do it before the playoffs." I'm like, "Thank goodness!" Like I can like let me get some like some more distance out of it, which was great.
So no transition time. I mean, really, did you put it in right away
Oh
based
no,
on
bro,
I mean,
it was straight.
again,
Yeah, straight in the bag.
yeah. I mean, yeah, 2 to 3 miles an hour, 10 yards,
Yeah.
more fairways.
Is it strictly speed and again much more fairways, so an accuracy component
Yeah.
tied in with actually hitting the ball longer too, so kind of a win-win in that regard. But is there anything else you're seeing?
I don't see any loss in spin around the greens, which is kind of weird because typically when you're talking to a professional golfer and then the whoever you work with, golf ball related, they always come in and say, "What do you want to see in a golf ball?" Well, there's two things. I want to hit it longer and I want to spin more around the greens. They're typically the two things that
That's it.
usually most guys say. You know what I mean? And then when you do say that, you're like, oh, you can't really do that. You either got to give one up or the other. So right now, I'm in a perfect world where I've got the spin around the greens that I haven't lost with compared from the Tour BX to the new VS Black, and then I've gained distance, which is like outstanding. Like I'm like couldn't be happier with the ball.
And then they're going to roll it all back, right? In a couple of years,
Yes.
potentially they're
Yep.
gonna say, "Hey,
I've got an issue with
today we
that.
appreciate."
I do have an issue with that.
What's your take, and what's kind of the sentiment amongst players, etc.? Like, give us
Yeah.
your take, because we talk about all this wonderful technology. Bridgestone's done this, that. You found
Yeah.
these through testing, etc. I get excited because another 5 yards to me would be huge, right? For me, a
Yeah.
half a club, anything is great. And then I go, I I've asked every single golfer I've ever played with, including some guys that are really, really long, and none of them told me they want to hit it shorter.
No.
So,
No one wants to hit
what's
it. No one
what's your
wants to
take?
hit it shorter. Yeah, no one wants to hit it shorter. I think they should stop the ball and make the driver less forgiving. The driver is the most forgiving club in your bag. You make that thing less forgiving, and like if you're susceptible to hitting some duck hooks or some block cuts, you're gonna pull out that 3 wood or that long iron pretty quick to just get something bunting down the middle of the fairway because you're like, I can't be hitting it 240 yards snap hooking into the trees. I need to get something kind of out in the middle. And that's essentially the way that golf is gone because we've made the golf ball longer and we've also made the driver longer and more forgiving. And but that's technology in itself. Like the athlete is so much better. Like the college, like every time I see a kid that's coming out on the tour now, they're like 6'3", wide shouldered, hit it like 185 mile an hour. I understand, make the driver less forgiving. They might pull out a 3-wood. And that will bring, because the way that we play golf these days is so offense driven. We hit it as far as we can down there, and we just kind of gouge it out. Rather than like back when I first started, there were guys that were there was a mixture of both. There was guys that were still very defensive, and then there was guys that were hitting like drivers like, yeah. Then there was guys that were hitting, you know, like kind of bunting it down the fairways, getting themselves in positions, and then going from there.
So, do you think? I mean, what I'm hearing you say too is like for elite tour players, golfers,
Yep.
making golf ball go shorter doesn't necessarily change their mindset, but giving you a golf club now that is inherently less forgiving or more
Yep.
prone to cuckoo balls and
Yep.
stuff, that would actually cause you to think differently
Yep.
about whether you send it or
Yeah.
whether you, like you said, pull 3-wood, etc. So if you had
Yeah.
however they would do that, 300 cc's, 340 cc's, or limit MOI or whatever it was,
Yeah.
that would impact how you approached it.
Yeah, that would impact the way that you approach because you're not going to feel great every single day. You're not going to feel like I'm like swinging. You're not going to feel like Rory McIlroy that drives a golf ball the way he does every single day. It's just like it's very. There's a small percentage of guys that have that, and when you're fighting, you swing a little bit, and you're not quite confident. And then all of a sudden you get these hooks and you get the slices and you're pulling a lofted club out and just trying to get it on the fairway and get through it because now, is it going to make it less exciting? Maybe, maybe not. Like maybe it's going to come down to the line and you're going to see some terrible shots, or maybe you're going to come down and you're going to see guys play a different style of game because now it's just like getting a driver as far as you can gouge it out, and it's just very one-dimensional. And that's kind of gone into a lot of course architecture as well. You know what I mean? And the way that we play major championship golf tournaments is usually just drive as far as you can, wedge it out, on the green, hopefully give yourself a putt.
Yeah, I want to see somebody on 18T at Augusta leading the tournament, fighting their driver with that narrow corridor going, do I pull driver? Do
Yeah.
I throw hybrid long iron, knowing that I'm going to have five,
Yeah.
6 iron in instead? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to
Well,
see that.
that's the point. Is that like this year I had like zero idea of where the ball was going. I lost a ball up 18, made a great five in the end because it hit drive down the fairway and then hit an iron on the green. But like let's just say for instance, 300 yards from the tee box, kind of in and around where we tee off, 300 yards to the first bunker on the left. If you're long, you're going to get to that first bunker. If you're not quite comfortable, and you're not comfortable hitting a fade, or you're just not comfortable where the driver's going, you're going to probably pull 3-wood. When you pull 3-wood, now you're hitting 5-iron, maybe a little bit longer into that green. Like that's gonna like change a lot of things, especially when you're trying to win a tournament or you're trying to catch someone. There's just going to be that's when like big massive swings could potentially happen.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, 4 becomes a really good score in that hole as
Yeah.
opposed to, hey, let's see
Yeah.
if somebody can make birdie to force
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's inevitable. I mean, what's the sense out there too? Is like the focus has been the ball, in spite of the fact your idea is great, and I agree with you. It
Yeah.
seems like they've kind of gone down this road. Does that to you? Are you kind of preparing for that as almost an inevitability, or do you think it's still up for debate?
I think if you talk to some ball manufacturers, there's some OEMs that would definitely not want to see it go that way. And then there's some OEMs that would love to see it go that way because they can cut into the market share, is what
Market
I'm
share.
saying. Yeah. So as a player, I wouldn't want to see it go that way because it just takes, I mean, do you want to see Rory McIlroy hit it 290? You know what I mean? And I'm just pulling out a number. You know what I mean? He could still hit it 310, 320 yards, but it's just not as fun watching someone hit it like 290. You know what I mean? It's not as fun watching like Bryson DeChambeau. Like watching Bryson DeChambeau hit driver on the first hole at the Ryder Cup was like impressive. You know, that's fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he hit it to the fringe in singles, and I mean, he still lost the hole, but
Yeah.
whatever. It was
Yeah.
awesome to,
Yeah.
to see,
Yeah.
to see him kind of take that approach. I
Yeah.
mean, is
But
that the
but
biggest
once
issue?
again, yeah, once again, I understand there's always going to be longer guys on tour. I understand what the USGA is trying to do because the next batch of like young players, college kids, they're all swinging 185, 190s. You know what I mean? So it's just only going to get longer and longer and longer as these young kids come up. So I understand what they're trying to do. I just think we can do it differently, not have to give up or have two separate rules for amateurs or like your local weekend golfer and professional or elite level golf. You know what I mean? Or two different standards of golf balls because that would not be fun. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's like any sport. Professional golfers or professional athletes make the sport look so simple that anyone can go out there and think they can do it, So to be able to take that out of a lot of people's hands, like kind of it's a little bit sad to think about, but it'll be interesting. We're a little bit away from that, so hopefully we come up with a solution. But I definitely understand both sides. I'd rather not see the rollback.
What about on the tour in general? Would you say universally against a rollback, or are there
Yeah.
pockets of support? Are there some guys who are looking forward to it?
It's funny we listen to these governing bodies that only have like one professional tournament a year. Like they got the US Open, the British Open, and we're like listening to these guys. Like we essentially could make our own rules as a PGA Tour because we play a whole. We could essentially make our own rules if we wanted to, but it just doesn't make sense because obviously we've abided by the rules for such a long time. I know that the tour doesn't want. I'm yet to find someone on tour that actually wants the rollback. Like truly in their heart, because, and I'm not saying that there isn't. I'm sure there are, but it just makes a product that's not as good. You know what I mean? Like I said before, like it just I don't want to see Rory like pumping a drive out there and it just goes 295. I want to see him hitting a 330, 340 down the middle. But yeah, I think I would assume, and this is just an assumption, I would assume that the tour would rather long drives, a lot of birdies, a lot of excitement.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, and it's first world problems. I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of one of the bigger topics facing us. Let's finish up with this. Let's go through just your golf bag real quick. What are you bagging now? What are you playing? What, for all of us equipment geeks out there, what tweaks have you made? What are you currently testing? What let's start driver. We'll just kind of go driver,
Uh,
go through
uh,
that down to your wedges.
okay. I'm assuming you guys have heard that I've been playing or testing some clubs, I guess. But I
Maybe.
am, yeah. Sorry, 1 second. Nothing. Hey, bud.
Yep, 2 minutes.
um, I have always played the ping driver for a while now. I love the feel of the off center hits. I love the stability. I am playing a TGI shaft, which is a KBS shaft in it now. And I'm actually trying to match the shafts throughout the whole bag. So the profile of the shafts. So essentially, what the theory is there is that we can swing it the same for each club and not have, because back in the day you'd be like, okay, the driver's essentially a different swing and the irons are a different swing, and you got to get different shafts to match those. So yeah, I mean, I'm testing some Avoda stuff, but I'm playing TaylorMade right now. But I'm testing Jumbo Max grips, and I'm testing the TGI 110s as well. Which Jumbo Max, like when you think about Jumbo Max, like I think other than Bryson, I don't think anyone else is playing Jumbo Max grips right now. But I have Vokey wedges in the bag, but they're like I said, Avoda. Testing those. I've got the TaylorMades in my bag. Got the Ping. I got an M6 3 wood and a QI35 7 wood. Yeah. So there's just a number of things in my bag right now that I'm testing. I'm out of season right now, so I don't even know what I'm going to go with next year.
We see like that even like amateurs, tour players. It seems to be a universal truth that the 3 wood is the one that sticks around the longest. Has that always been the case for you?
Yeah, because you have to. It's almost like a 60 degree, right? You like with a 60 degree club, you're asking it to be one of the most versatile clubs in the bag, right? You have to play high shots, low shots, bunkers, rough, fairway. You have to like get it running. You have to get it stopping. You have to get it spinning. So if you don't find the right grind, bounce, and all that stuff, and for it to go into the ground and out of the ground the way that you want to, then that makes chipping and short game very, very tough. Same kind of thing, concept with a 3 wood. You're asking it to go really, really hard off the tee box, and you're asking it to come really, really soft and land soft onto a par five green. And you're asking it to, for me, I hit this low bunt 3 wood that I use a lot at the British Open or any sort of dry conditions. And I also like to flight it up and get it up in the air. So you're asking a 3 wood to kind of be a lot. And a drive, it's just stock standard off a tee. You're hitting it like a normal swing. You're just hitting like your stock standard shot. Whereas in a 3 wood, you're kind of asking it to draw, fade, land high, go high, land soft, go hard, low, run a lot. So once you find one, it's very, very difficult to get that thing out of the bag.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, that's we covered a lot. I can't wait to follow, see how things go in the off season, see what's in the bag to start next season. All of those things. We appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you carving out time. I know it's off season, but I know your schedule's still super busy, and so we appreciate the conversation and your time, and
Yeah.
wish you nothing but the best moving forward. And If you ever need a caddy at Augusta, I know a guy. So.
I appreciate you guys having me on, and it was good chatting with you guys. I hope to do it again soon.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jason. Everybody else, leave your comments. Let us know what you think. We out.